The colony on Asteron 9 was a place of fear, far from Earth. It was a mining world where humans worked day and night to dig rare crystals, but whispers filled the tunnels, whispers about something moving in the dark. Workers went missing one by one and no bodies were ever found. Every man and woman knew the truth, but no one dared to speak it. Something hunted them, something older than the colony itself. Ethan Cross was a human engineer who came to Asteron 9 for work. He was strong, young, and desperate to earn enough credits to escape this cursed planet. But soon he realized that the colony was not only dangerous because of the monsters, it was dangerous because of fear. The people feared one alien more than the shadows outside. Her name was Carol. Carol lived alone in the far edge of the colony. In a house built of black stone, she was tall, with silver eyes that glowed faintly, and skin that shimmered like metal under the sun. Her people, the Vena, once ruled this part of space, but now only a few remained scattered and broken. Carol was a widow, her husband killed in a war that ended before Ethan was even born. The colonists called her cursed. They said she brought death wherever she went. No one worked with her, no one spoke with her. Children threw stones at her house, and adults crossed the street when she walked by. Ethan watched her from a distance for weeks. He noticed something strange. No matter how much people hated her, no harm ever came to her. Her house glowed at night with faint lines of light. Sometimes he thought he saw the walls move as if alive, and the whispers in the mining tunnels often carried her name. The colony feared Carel more than the creatures outside. One evening, after another miner disappeared, Ethan sat alone in the dusty bar. The leaders were speaking. "We must find the cause," one said. Another whispered, "It is the widow. It must be her." They decided no one should go near her. But Ethan thought differently. He needed help, and Carel was the only one who seemed unafraid of the dark. The next morning, Ethan walked to her house. People stared at him as if he had lost his mind. Some even spat on the ground as he passed. But he did not stop. He knocked on the heavy black door. It opened without a sound. Carel stood there. Her silver eyes fixed on him. For a long moment, she said nothing. Her gaze was cold, yet not cruel. Ethan felt the weight of her presence, like standing before a storm. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and clear. "No human has ever come here by choice. Why are you at my door?" Ethan took a deep breath. "I need help," he said. "The colony is breaking. People vanish every week. No one fights back, no one searches. They are too afraid, but I cannot survive alone. I want to hire you." Her eyes narrowed. "Hire me," she repeated, as if tasting the words. "You know what they say about me. Do you believe them?" Ethan shook his head. "I don't care what they say. I care about living. If you can protect me, guide me, or show me what hunts us, I'll pay whatever I have." For a long silence, Carel watched him. Behind her, the house glowed faintly, the black walls pulsing like a heartbeat. Finally, she stepped aside. "Enter," she said. Ethan walked inside. The air was cold, colder than outside. Strange symbols glowed on the walls, twisting and moving like living things. The floor was smooth but felt alive under his boots. Everywhere he looked, the house seemed to breathe. Carel closed the door and stood before him. "If you wish to hire me, human, you must know the truth. I'm not what they say. But I am not innocent either. My husband is dead, and his spirit does not rest. The power you see in these walls is not mine. It belongs to something older, something that watches. If you stay, you will be marked as I am, cursed by them forever." Ethan felt a chill down his spine. But he did not run. He looked into her silver eyes and said, "Then curse me too, because I would rather face the truth with you than live a lie with them." For the first time, Carol's face softened, almost like a smile. "Very well," she said, her voice carrying both sadness and strength. "Our contract is sealed. From this moment, your fate is tied to mine." At that moment, the walls of the house pulsed brighter. The floor trembled, and Ethan felt a whisper touch his mind, a voice not human, not alien, but something deeper. He shivered but stood tall. He did not know what he had stepped into. But one thing was clear: his life was no longer his own. Far outside, in the mining tunnels, something moved, something vast and hungry. Its eyes opened in the dark, and it turned toward the colony, toward Carol's glowing house, toward Ethan, the foolish human who had just made the contract. Ethan could not sleep that first night in Carol's house. The air inside was cold and heavy, as if the walls themselves were breathing around him. Strange lines of light pulsed on the stone, forming symbols that shifted whenever he blinked. It was not a home, it was something alive. Something that remembered. Carell moved silently through the dark halls, her silver eyes glowing faintly. She carried no lamp. Yet the walls lit where she walked. Ethan followed her, his footsteps loud compared to her graceful movements. At times he thought she was not walking but gliding. Her shadow did not always match her body. Sometimes it stretched too long. Sometimes it broke apart into shapes he could not name. "Do you always stare so much?" she asked without turning. Her voice was calm but sharp. Ethan froze, embarrassed. I don't mean to," he said. "It's just your house. It feels strange." Carell finally stopped, her hand resting on a wall that pulsed under her touch. "This place is not a house," she said. "It is a wound. It bleeds memory. It remembers my husband. It remembers the war. And it remembers the things that came before him." Ethan frowned. "Then why live here? Why not leave?" She turned her glowing eyes toward him. "Because if I leave, it will follow, and the colony will not survive a night. They think I am cursed, but the curse is not mine. It belongs to something that wants me dead. And if I abandon this place, it will hunt until it finds me again." Ethan felt his chest tighten. The miners who vanished, the whispers in the tunnels, the fear of the colonists, it was all tied to her, but not because she summoned it, because she held it back. He realized the truth was even worse than the rumors. As the night deepened, Ethan lay on a hard bed carved from stone. Sleep came in fragments, broken by whispers that slid into his dreams. He saw shadows moving through endless tunnels, eyes glowing in the dark. A shape with claws scratching at the walls of the colony. He woke covered in sweat, his heart racing. But Carell was already awake, standing at the doorway. "You heard it too," she said quietly. Ethan only nodded. Yes, the next day, Ethan tried to work in the colony, but people stared. Some spat and some muttered insults. "Human fool," one miner whispered. "You sleep in the cursed house." "You are marked now," another man shoved him. "Stay away from us if you bring her doom here. We will throw you out with her." Ethan clenched his fists but said nothing. He returned to Carell's house, his anger burning. When she saw him, she only said, "You begin to understand." That night, Carell told him the truth of her husband. He was a warrior of the Vena. Strong and proud, he carried the blood-iron blade. He fought in the last war against the Void, but he never returned. Her voice trembled but did not break. "They say he fell, but I know his spirit lingers. Not as a ghost, but as a chain. I am bound to his memory, and the shadows that killed him have bound themselves to me." Ethan listened in silence. For the first time, he saw pain in her eyes. She was not cold, she was broken. The colony saw a curse, but Ethan saw a woman carrying too much weight. Suddenly the ground shook, dust fell from the ceiling, and the walls glowed brighter. Carell's eyes widened. "They are near," she said. Ethan grabbed his tools, though he knew they were useless against monsters. From outside came a long, low howl. It was not animal, not human, but something between. The colony alarms began to ring. People screamed in the distance. Carell rushed to the door, but Ethan blocked her. "You can't go out there, they will blame you," he said. She placed a hand on his chest, her touch cold and heavy. "They already blame me. But if I do nothing, they will die, and the shadows will only grow stronger." With a single push, she moved him aside and stepped outside. Ethan followed, his heart pounding. The sky above the colony shimmered with strange lights like cracks in space itself. From the dark tunnels came shapes, tall and thin, with limbs too long and mouths filled with teeth that glowed faintly. The colonists ran in terror, some firing weapons, others dropping to their knees, but the shadows kept coming. Silent and endless, Carell raised her hands. The walls of her house pulsed and streams of silver light flowed into her body. Her skin turned brighter, the metal under her flesh moving like liquid. Ethan stared in shock. She was not just alien. She was something more, something fused with living metal. The shadows hissed, recoiling from the light. Carell's voice echoed like thunder. "Back," she commanded. The creatures paused, trembling. But they did not retreat. They watched her with hunger. And Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The colonists shouted from the walls. "She controls them," one screamed. "She brought them here," another yelled. Weapons pointed at her. Carell's eyes flicked toward Ethan, and in that moment he understood. The colony would never believe her to them. She would always be the widow of shadows, but to him, she was the only one holding the darkness back. The night ended with fire and fear. The shadows withdrew into the tunnels. Not defeated, but waiting. The colony lay broken, Homes smashed, lives lost, and still they whispered against her. But Ethan stood at her side. His choice clear. He would face the curse. He would face the colony, and he would face the shadows. As long as Carell was there, he was not afraid. Far below the ground, in the deep tunnels no miner dared to enter, something stirred, a voice whispered from the dark. Not in words, but in hunger. It remembered Carell. It remembered her husband, and now it remembered Ethan too. The contract was only the beginning. The secret was only the first truth. The war had already begun. The colony did not sleep after the attack. Fires still burned in the streets, and the air smelled of smoke and blood. Children cried while their parents searched for the missing. Everywhere people whispered the same name, Carell, to them. She was the reason the shadows had come to them. The cursed widow had finally revealed her true face. Ethan stood outside her black stone house, his fists clenched. He had seen with his own eyes that Carell fought the shadows, not summoned them. He had seen the silver light push the monsters back when no one else could stand against them. But the colonists did not care about truth. They cared about fear. At dawn, a meeting was called in the central square. The leaders stood on the steps of the administration building, their faces pale and hard. One of them, Governor Rask, raised his voice. "Last night, we lost 12 miners, 3 guards, and half our food stores. We cannot allow this to happen again." His eyes swept the crowd, then landed on Carol's house in the distance. "We all know the cause. The shadow follows her. The curse clings to her as long as she remains. We are doomed." The crowd erupted with shouts. "Cast her out," someone cried. "She brought them here." Another yelled. Ethan stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "You fools, she saved you. Without her, you would all be dead." The crowd turned on him. "You are blinded by her lies," one man spat. "She bewitched you," a woman hissed. "She is not saving us. She is feeding them," another shouted. Ethan's heart burned with anger. But before he could speak again, Carell herself appeared. She walked calmly into the square, her silver eyes steady. Her presence silenced the crowd, though not with respect, but with hatred. Rask pointed at her. "You will leave this colony before the sun sets if you remain. We will burn your house to the ground and bury you in it." Ethan rushed to her side. "You can't let them do this," he whispered. But Carell only shook her head slowly. "This is nothing new," she said softly. "My people shunned me too. They believed I carried death. Humans are no different." Her calmness made Ethan's rage grow. He shouted at the leaders, "She is the only reason we are alive. And you want to throw her away? You're cowards." The crowd roared back. "You want to die with her? Then go." "Yes, go with your alien witch." Carol placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch heavy but steady. "Enough," she said. To the leaders she added, "I will not leave. Not because of your orders, but because if I leave, the shadows will not stop. They will tear through every tunnel and every wall. Your weapons will not save you." But Rask sneered. "Then prove it if you are not cursed. If you truly fight them, show us your power. Show us the truth of what you are," the crowd chanted. "Show us, show us." Carell's face turned grim. She raised her hand, and the ground beneath the square trembled. From her palm, threads of silver light spread like veins. Crawling across the stone, the people gasped as the metal writhed and grew into shapes. Blades, shields, and towers of living steel. The crowd fell silent, fear heavy in their eyes. "This is my power," Carol said, her voice echoing across the square. "It was not born of choice. It was forced upon me when my husband died. His blood-iron blade melted into my flesh. His spirit bound to my body. I became half of him, half of myself. And all of the curse." The crowd stepped back in horror. Some cried out, "She is not even alive. She is a machine. She is a monster." Ethan stepped closer to her. "She's not a monster. She's the only one who fights for us," he shouted. But his words drowned in the storm of fear. The people threw stones, their hatred louder than reason. Carell lowered her hand, the silver shape sinking back into the earth. Her eyes were sad but not surprised as the sun set. Ethan sat inside her glowing house. "Why didn't you fight back? Why didn't you silence them?" he demanded. Carell sat in silence, her gaze fixed on the moving symbols on the wall. "Because fear cannot be silenced, Ethan. It grows stronger when you strike it. And I have fought too long to waste my strength on their anger." Ethan shook his head. "They will never stop. They will keep blaming you. And one day they will come with fire." Carol turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly. "Then you must decide. Will you stand with me when they come? Or will you leave with them?" Ethan's chest tightened. He had never felt so torn. But before he could answer, the ground shook again. Stronger than before, this time the tremor did not fade, it grew, like footsteps moving beneath the colony. Outside, alarms rang once more. The shadows had returned. Faster than anyone expected, Carell rose, her body glowing with the living silver. "They are not waiting anymore," she said. "They want me. And they will not stop until they take everything." Ethan grabbed his pack and stood beside her. "If they want you, then they will have to go through me first." From deep in the tunnels, a sound like 1,000 claws scraped against stone. The night filled with screams as the shadows poured out once more. The colony's fear was no longer just whispers. It had become war. The colony was burning again. Screams echoed through the narrow streets, mixed with the thunder of collapsing walls. The shadows had returned with greater fury, black shapes slipping from the tunnels like living smoke. Their glowing teeth tore through metal doors. Their claws shredded stone. Guards fired their rifles. But bullets only slowed the creatures. Fear spread faster than fire in the chaos. The colonists turned their anger toward Carell's house. "It's her," one shouted. "She called them," another cried. A mob formed, torches in hand, faces twisted with rage. They stormed toward the black stone building where Ethan and Carell stood. Ethan's heart pounded. He could see it in their eyes. This time they would not stop with words. They wanted blood. Carell stood calmly, her silver eyes watching the crowd. The living metal inside her shimmered faintly, ready to rise, but she whispered, "If I fight them, I will only prove their fear right." The mob surrounded the house. Stones smashed against the walls. Flames licked at the black stone. But the house pulsed with its own power, refusing to burn. Ethan stepped forward, blocking the path. "Stop," he shouted. "You're fools. She's protecting us. Without her, you'd already be dead." The mob roared louder. "You protect the cursed one, then you're cursed too," a man spat. "Step aside, human," another demanded. Ethan felt hands grab him, dragging him to the ground. They kicked him, shouted at him, called him traitor. Pain flared through his ribs, but he refused to move away from her. He spat blood and screamed, "You'll have to kill me before you touch her." The crowd hesitated, shocked by his defiance for a moment. Silence hung in the air. Then Carell stepped forward, silver light blazing from her skin. Her voice thundered across the square. "Enough!" The light poured out, sweeping the crowd back like a wave. The mob stumbled and fell, shielding their eyes. Carell's body glowed brighter, her shadow stretching unnaturally across the burning ground. Ethan rose weakly, staring at her. For the first time, he saw her true form. Not just alien, not just widow, but something fused with living metal. Half flesh, half weapon. The colonists cowered, some screaming, "She is a demon. She will destroy us." But others stared in awe, realizing she had held back until now. The choice was clear, but still they chose fear. Governor Rask appeared with soldiers, his voice cold. "Ethan Cross, you are charged with treason, aiding the cursed widow. You will be executed." His finger pointed at Carell. "And she will be destroyed. For the good of the colony." Ethan's heart raced. He had a choice to make. Betray Carell to save his own life, or stand with her and face death. His bruised body ached, but his voice was steady. "You're blind, all of you. She is not the curse, she is the cure. And I will stand with her until my last breath." Carell's silver eyes softened for the first time. In her cold face, Ethan saw something he had never expected. Gratitude. She placed her hand on his arm and whispered, "You have chosen, human. And now your path is tied to mine." Before Rask could answer, the ground shook violently. Cracks split the streets, swallowing houses. The shadows poured out in numbers greater than ever before. Dozens, maybe hundreds, moving like a tide of darkness. The colony screamed in terror as the creatures stormed the walls. Weapons fired, but it was useless. The colony was falling. Carell turned to Ethan, her face grim. "They are not after the colony. They are after me." Her body glowed brighter, silver streams crawling across her arms and chest. "If I stay, they will keep coming. If I leave, they will follow me into the void. This is my curse." Ethan grabbed her hand, his voice fierce. "Then I'll go with you. Wherever it leads, I won't let you face this alone." Her eyes widened, a flicker of pain crossing her face. "No human has ever chosen this path. It will destroy you," she warned. But Ethan only tightened his grip. "Then let it destroy me. Because I'd rather die with you than live without you." For the first time, Carell's lips curved into the faintest smile. You are foolish, Ethan Cross, but you are braver than any warrior I have known. Together they turned toward the swarm of shadows. Carell raised her arms, the black stone house pulsing with silver light. The living metal surged forward like rivers, forming blades and shields that surrounded them. Ethan felt the power flow through the ground, through the air, through her. And for a moment, he thought he heard her husband's voice echoing in the metal, a cry of battle, a memory of war. The shadows roared, their glowing teeth flashing. The soldiers fled, the governor ran. Only Ethan and Carell stood against the tide. The night became fire and silver light, screams and shadows, and in the chaos, Ethan realized the truth. This was no longer about the colony. This was about survival, this was about trust. And this was about the human choice he had made. The colony would never forgive him. The shadows would never stop hunting her. But Ethan's heart was steady. He had chosen, and he would never turn back. Far beneath the ground, something vast stirred. A greater shadow than all the rest, its eyes opened in the endless dark. It had watched Carell for years, but now it had seen the human too. And it whispered through the stone, "You are mine." The colony lay in ruins after the last night. Shadows had retreated into the deep tunnels, but the screams of the dead still echoed in every street. Houses burned, walls were broken, and the survivors whispered in fear. Yet even with the damage, their anger did not fade. They blamed Carell. They blamed Ethan. To them, the cursed widow and the foolish human had brought this doom. Ethan and Carell did not wait to hear more. Before the sun rose, they left the colony behind. No one tried to stop them, no one dared. The mob had made its choice. Now Ethan made his. He followed Carell into the endless tunnels of Asteron 9. The tunnels were older than the colony, older than human memory. The walls were carved with symbols that glowed faintly when Carell passed. It was as if the stone itself remembered her. Her steps were silent. Her silver eyes fixed ahead. Ethan followed close, his lamp weak compared to the glow around her body. He was tired, bruised, and hungry. But he did not complain because she never complained. After hours of walking, they reached a vast chamber. The ceiling stretched so high it vanished into darkness. In the center stood a broken altar, carved of black iron and stone. Carell stopped, her face shadowed. "This was his resting place," she whispered. Ethan stepped closer. "Your husband," she nodded slowly. "Yes, when the war ended, they brought what was left of him here. His blade melted into his bones, his body burned to ash. But the metal remained, it chose me. It bound itself to my flesh. And with it came his memory, his strength, and his curse." Ethan looked at her, seeing the pain behind her calm. "You've carried this alone," he said. Her silver eyes turned to him. "Alone is all I have ever known," she whispered. For the first time her voice trembled. Ethan reached out, placing his hand gently on hers. Her skin was cold, yet beneath it he felt the pulse of something alive. She did not pull away. Instead, her fingers tightened around his. "You should fear me, human. You should run," she said. But Ethan shook his head. "I don't fear you, Carell. I fear losing you." Silence filled the chamber, broken only by the low hum of the glowing symbols. Carell lowered her gaze. "No one has ever spoken to me like that. Not even him, my warrior. He was strong, but his heart belonged to battle, not to me." Her voice grew softer. "You are not like him. Ethan Cross, you are foolish, fragile, and weak. Yet you stand beside me without hesitation, and that makes you stronger than he ever was." Ethan felt his chest tighten. He had never expected an alien widow to say such words, but he saw the truth in her eyes. A bond was growing between them, something neither curse nor shadow could break. They rested near the broken altar. Ethan tried to sleep, but his mind was restless. He dreamed of Carell, standing in silver light, her eyes burning like stars. He dreamed of the shadows whispering his name. When he woke, Carell was already awake, watching the tunnels in silence. "You dream loudly," she said without looking at him. Ethan laughed weakly. "Maybe I dream of you." Her lips curved faintly, almost a smile. "Then perhaps your dreams are wiser than you are," she said. But their quiet moment did not last. The ground shook again, dust falling from the ceiling. Carell's face darkened. "They are close, they are always close. No matter how far I go, they find me. They find us." Ethan gripped his pack. "Then we'll fight them together. I don't care how many come." Carell turned to him, her silver eyes glowing brighter. "You speak of fighting, but you do not know the cost. If we open the weapon hidden in these ruins, it will kill me. The living metal will burn through my body. It was never meant for one. It was meant for two. Only with two can it be balanced, Ethan frowned. Two, he asked. Carell nodded slowly. Yes, when my husband fell, the bond broke. Now the metal tears at me each time I call it. I cannot hold it forever. Not alone, I need another. Someone who will take the weight. Someone who will share the curse. Ethan stepped closer without hesitation. Then let me take it, let me share it. Her eyes widened. You do not understand. If you accept it, it will burn into you. It will change you. You may never be human again. Ethan's voice was steady. Maybe I don't need to be only human anymore. Maybe I need to be something more if it means saving you. I'll do it. Carell stared at him in silence for the first time since they met. Her hand reached to his face, cold fingers brushing his cheek. You are either the bravest man I have ever known, or the most foolish, perhaps both, she whispered. Ethan held her hand against his face, his heart pounding. I don't care what it makes me. As long as I'm with you, the chamber pulsed, as if the ruins themselves had heard his choice. The glowing symbols grew brighter, spreading across the walls like rivers of fire. Carell's body shimmered, silver light dancing under her skin. The bond between them was no longer just words, it was alive. Something ancient, something powerful had accepted his choice. Far away in the tunnels, the shadows stirred uneasily. They hissed and shrieked, as if the air itself burned them. A greater voice whispered in the dark. They are joining, they are becoming, they must be stopped. Ethan and Carell stood together before the broken altar. For the first time, she did not look like a widow cursed by fate. For the first time, she looked like a queen standing beside her chosen mate. The bond had risen, and nothing in the colony or in the shadows would ever be the same again. The shadows did not wait any longer. They poured out of the tunnels like a living flood, black shapes twisting and crawling across the broken colony. Their glowing teeth lit the night like fireflies of death. Claws scraped against metal walls, dragging sparks into the darkness. Every scream, every cry of terror was drowned by the roar of the swarm. The colonists fought, but their rifles were weak. Bullets tore holes in the shadows, but the wounds closed as quickly as they opened. Flamethrowers burned some away, but for every one that fell, 3 more rose from the dark. The guards broke ranks, dropping weapons. Running into the night, it was not a battle. It was a slaughter. Inside the ruins, Ethan and Carell felt the tremors shake the stone beneath their feet. The glowing symbols on the walls pulsed faster. Alive with warning, Carell's silver eyes burned bright. They have come, the war is here, she said. Ethan clenched his fists, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at him. Then let's finish this together. Carell stepped toward the altar of black stone. She placed her hands on its surface, and silver streams of living metal crawled up her arms. Her body shook, her breath shallow, but her voice did not break. This weapon was made for 2, one to hold the light, one to anchor the fire. If you are still willing, Ethan, then take my hand and share the curse. Ethan did not hesitate. He placed his hand over hers. The metal surged into him like fire, burning through his veins. Pain ripped through his chest, his vision turned white. He screamed, but he did not let go. Carell's grip tightened around him, her own body trembling. Their voices mixed in the air. One human, one alien echoing as one. The ruins answered. The walls glowed so bright the stone looked like liquid. The broken altar split open, and from its core rose a blade of living silver. Long and curved, pulsing like a heartbeat. Ethan gasped, the pain fading, replaced with a strange strength. The metal wrapped around his arm, fusing to his skin. Carell's body shimmered brighter, no longer weighed down by the curse for the first time. She was not alone in carrying it outside. The shadows struck the colony walls, breaking them apart like paper. The people screamed for help. Governor Rask himself fell to his knees, his voice desperate. Find them, find the widow, find the human. Only they can save us now. Ethan and Carell stepped out of the ruins, side by side. The air around them shimmered with silver light. The shadows hissed, recoiling at the sight. Carell raised her arms, streams of metal forming spears and shields around them. Ethan lifted his new weapon, the silver blade humming in his hand. The bond between them burned like fire in their veins. The swarm charged, a sea of black bodies rushing toward them. Ethan swung the blade, and the air split with silver fire. Shadows fell, their glowing teeth shattering like glass. Carell thrust her hand forward, and walls of living metal rose from the ground. Impaling the creatures, together they moved as one, each strike flowing into the next. The human and the widow, bound by the curse, now wielded it as a weapon. The colonists watched in shock from the broken walls. The woman they called cursed was their shield. The human they mocked was their sword. For the first time, hope returned to their eyes. But the shadows did not stop. They climbed over each other. Forming towers of writhing limbs, they leapt from rooftops, swarming the defenders, and in the chaos, Ethan heard something new. A voice deep and endless whispered inside his mind. You do not belong here. Human, you are weak, you are fragile, you cannot hold her power. Ethan gritted his teeth, swinging the blade harder. I will not let her fight alone. Not now, not ever, he shouted. The voice laughed, cold and hollow. Then you will break, and when you fall, she will fall with you. Carel's hand touched his arm. Steadying him, her voice cut through the whispers. Do not listen, they cannot break us unless we doubt. Trust me, Ethan, as I trust you. Her silver eyes met his, and for a moment the fear vanished. The bond between them flared brighter. Silencing the voice, hours passed like minutes. The ground was littered with broken shadows that melted into black smoke. But for every wave they cut down, more poured out of the tunnels. Ethan's arms ached. His body burned with exhaustion. Carel's face was pale, her strength fading, yet neither stopped. The colony's fate rested on them finally. The earth split with a deafening roar. From the deepest tunnel rose a creature larger than any they had faced. Its body was made of shadows and fire, its mouth filled with rows of glowing teeth. Its roar shook the ground, sending colonists to their knees. Carel's eyes widened, her voice low. That is no shadow. That is the one who killed my husband. Ethan tightened his grip on the blade, his voice steady. Then tonight, we finish what he started. The monstrous shadow stepped forward, its gaze fixed on Carel. Its voice rumbled through the night. I remember you, widow. I remember his scream as I tore him apart. Now you will join him, and your new mate will fall with you. Ethan's heart raced. But he stood taller, his blade glowing brighter than ever. You're wrong, he said. We will not fall. Not tonight. Side by side, human and widow faced the beast. Silver light against endless dark. The war of shadows had reached its peak. And only their bond could decide who survived the night. The great shadow towered above them. Its body was smoke and fire, its teeth glowing like burning stars. Each step shook the earth, each roar split the sky. The colonists trembled, whispering prayers. Certain the end had come, but Ethan and Carel stood side by side. The silver blade pulsed in Ethan's hands. Alive with the bond they shared, Carel's body glowed brighter than ever, streams of living metal flowing across her skin like rivers of light. Together they were no longer cursed. Together they were something greater. The monster lunged, claws swinging like blades. Ethan raised the silver weapon, sparks exploding as steel met shadow. Carel thrust her arms forward, walls of metal surging up from the earth to block the strike. The impact shook the colony. Stone shattered, flames roared. But they did not fall. Ethan's arms burned with pain, the weight of the weapon almost breaking him. But Carel's hand touched his shoulder, strength flowing from her into him. You are not alone, she whispered. He looked into her silver eyes and felt the fire inside him grow stronger. The bond carried them. They struck as one, Ethan swinging the blade, Carel shaping the ground itself into weapons. Spears of light pierced the monster's body. The blade cut deep into its chest, tearing through the endless smoke. The creature roared, its voice shaking the stars. You cannot kill me, widow. You cannot kill me, human. I am eternal, Ethan shouted back. Maybe you are eternal, but so is love. And so is hope. He drove the blade deeper. Carel poured her strength into the wound. The monster screamed, its body exploding into a storm of black smoke. The swarm shrieked and scattered. The ground trembled as the shadows fled into the void. When the dust cleared, silence fell across the colony. The monster was gone, the swarm broken. The people stepped out of hiding, their faces pale and eyes wide. They looked at the widow they had cursed. They looked at the human they had mocked. And for the first time they bowed. Governor Rask fell to his knees. You saved us, he whispered, his voice trembling. Carel's silver eyes flicked toward him, cold and distant. I did not save you. I saved him, she said, her gaze fixed on Ethan. Ethan stood at her side, his body weak, his chest burning with every breath. But he smiled because, for the first time, he knew he had chosen the right path. He had stood with her. And together they had won. Days passed, and the colony slowly rebuilt. The people no longer threw stones at Carell's house. They left food at her door. They spoke her name with respect. But Carell cared little for their change. She cared only for the human who stayed at her side. One night Ethan woke to find Carell sitting in silence. Her hand rested against her stomach, her silver eyes soft and distant. "What is it?" he asked. His voice gentle, she turned to him, her lips parting with words she never thought she would speak. "I carry life," she whispered. "Yours and mine." Ethan froze, his heart racing. "You mean—" Carell nodded slowly. "Yes, I carry your child." Tears stung his eyes. He took her hands in his voice shaking. "A child, ours. But how is it possible?" Carell's eyes glowed faintly. "The bond changed us, the curse became life. What was once death has turned into hope." Ethan pulled her close, holding her against his chest. "You're not cursed. Carell, you never were, you were chosen. And now so am I." Her cold body trembled against him. But for the first time it was not from pain, it was from joy. The news spread quietly through the colony. Whispers of the widow carrying a child, not of her people but of a human. Some feared it, some doubted it, but many saw it as a sign, a bridge between two races, a legacy born of war and love. Ethan did not care what they thought. He only cared for Carell and the life growing inside her. He swore to protect them no matter the cost. He had faced the shadows, he had faced death, but now he had something greater to fight for. On the highest cliff above the colony, Carell stood with Ethan. The stars burned bright above. Endless and cold, she looked at him, her silver eyes filled with something she had never known before. Not fear, not sorrow, but peace. "You gave me what I thought I had lost forever," she whispered. Ethan smiled, taking her hand. "And you gave me what I never knew I needed." Below them, the colony lived, no longer slaves to fear. The shadows were gone, but the memory of the battle would never fade. They would remember the human and the widow, the cursed one and the foolish one who stood together when no one else dared. Far away, in the endless dark, something still watched. The void was never truly empty, but even it could not deny the truth. A new legacy had been born, not of war, not of fear, but of a bond stronger than shadow, the legacy of a human and his alien wife. And the child who would carry both their worlds,